Consider this a warning, because there is a strange feeling that shows up the moment money gets close to you, and almost nobody recognizes it for what it is, even though it is quietly revealing a hidden block that is keeping them broke. It is quick. It is quiet. It lasts maybe half a second. A small tightening somewhere in the chest or the gut when a large amount is about to land, when an opportunity appears that could actually change everything, when someone offers to pay you what you are truly worth. Most people never even notice it consciously. It passes too fast. But your subconscious notices, and your subconscious acts on it, and that half-second flinch is doing more to keep you broke than every external circumstance you like to blame. Today, I'm going to show you how to read that feeling the way a doctor reads a symptom, because that strange feeling is not random, it is a readout. It is your hidden assumption about money announcing itself, and once you learn to diagnose it, you can finally treat the actual disease instead of the surface. Think about how a good physician works. A patient walks in and says they feel fine, mostly, just a little off. The doctor does not take that at face value. The doctor looks for the small signs the patient has learned to ignore, the symptoms that seem too minor to matter, because the doctor knows that the body whispers a problem long before it screams it. The slight change, the thing you got used to. That is where the real diagnosis lives. And your relationship with money works exactly the same way. You think you want money. You say you want money. On the surface, you are doing everything to get it. But there are small, almost invisible symptoms in how you react to money that reveal a completely different truth underneath. A hidden assumption that money is dangerous, that money is not for you, that having it would cost you something you are terrified to lose. And that buried assumption runs the whole show no matter what your conscious mind insists it wants. Neville Goddard understood this a century before the language existed to describe it cleanly. He said that your assumption, whether true or false, if persisted in, hardens into fact. And the cruel part, the part that traps almost everyone, is that you are not aware of most of your assumptions. They do not feel like beliefs. They feel like reality. They feel like just the way things are. A man who assumes deep down that money is hard to keep does not walk around thinking, I believe money is hard to keep. He just notices that money always seems to slip away, and he calls it bad luck. And the assumption stays invisible, protected, running underneath, manufacturing the exact reality it predicts. The assumption hides. The symptom is the only thing that shows. So if you want to find the assumption, you have to learn to read the symptom. So let me give you the diagnostic, the actual symptoms, because vague talk about limiting beliefs helps nobody. These are the specific, strange feelings that reveal a hidden money block. And as I describe them, I want you to notice your own body, because you will recognize at least one of these, and the one you recognize is your diagnosis. The first symptom is the flinch, the half-second tightening when money gets close. You see a number larger than you are used to, attached to you, possibly yours, and instead of pure excitement, there is a flicker of something else. Tension, a bracing, almost fear. Watch a person who is comfortable with wealth and a person who is not both look at the same large sum, and you will see two completely different nervous systems. The comfortable one relaxes, leans in, treats it as natural. The blocked one tightens even while smiling, even while saying yes. That flinch is your subconscious flagging the money as a threat, and the body does not flinch toward things it has assumed are safe and natural. It flinches toward danger. So if money makes you brace, somewhere inside you have assumed that money is dangerous, and your nervous system is protecting you from the very thing you say you want. The second symptom is the rush to get rid of it. Money comes in, an unexpected amount, more than usual, and almost immediately you feel an itch to do something with it. Spend it, move it, give it away, pay something down, anything to not just sit with a large balance. People think this is responsibility. Sometimes it is, but very often it is the subconscious unable to tolerate the discomfort of holding wealth, because holding wealth contradicts the assumption of who you are, and the mind resolves the contradiction by getting the balance back down to a level that feels like you again. This is why people who suddenly come into money so often have nothing a year later. It was not bad math. It was a thermostat. They have an internal setting for how much money they are allowed to be, and the moment reality exceeds it, an invisible mechanism kicks in to bring them back down to their assumed level. The number is not the cause. The assumption sets the thermostat, and the behavior just executes it. The third symptom is the guilt, the faint discomfort when you have more than the people around you, the reflex to hide it, downplay it, apologize for it. The strange relief you feel when you are struggling, because at least then you belong. At least then nobody resents you. At least then you are still one of the good ones. This is one of the most powerful hidden blocks there is, because it ties your poverty to your morality and your belonging. Somewhere you assumed that having money would make you bad, greedy, separate, alone, that the people you love would lose you, or you would lose them. And so a part of you, trying to protect your connection and your goodness, quietly keeps you at the income level where you still fit in. You are not failing to get rich. You are succeeding at staying safe, loved, and good, in the only way your hidden assumption allows. The fourth symptom is the disbelief. The deal goes well, the money is coming, and you cannot quite let yourself feel it. You wait for it to fall through. You brace for the catch. You refuse to celebrate until it has fully cleared, and even then you feel a strange numbness instead of joy. This is the assumption that good things do not last for you, that the other shoe always drops, that getting your hopes up is dangerous, so your mind protects you from disappointment by refusing to fully accept the good thing even as it arrives. And here is the trap, because refusing to feel the wealth as real and yours is exactly the state that prevents wealth from becoming real and yours. The disbelief is not protecting you from a future disappointment. The disbelief is the cause of the disappointment, because the subconscious takes your refusal to accept the money as the instruction and faithfully arranges for the money to slip. Notice what all four symptoms have in common. They are all your nervous system reacting to money as a problem, rather than as a natural extension of who you are. And that reaction, that strange feeling, is the visible tip of a hidden assumption you never consciously chose. You inherited it. You absorbed it. From a household where money meant stress and fighting. From parents who said the rich are greedy, or money does not grow on trees, or we cannot afford it. In a tone of fear that taught your nervous system, long before you could reason, that money is a source of pain. From a culture that wrapped wealth in suspicion and poverty in virtue. You were programmed in the most literal sense, and the program is still running, and that strange feeling is the program reporting for duty every time money gets close. So how do you treat it? Because identifying the symptom is not the cure. It is only the diagnosis, and most spiritual content stops at the diagnosis and leaves you sitting there knowing your block and still living it. The treatment is where Neville becomes more useful than any of them, because he did not tell you to analyze the block for 10 years. He told you to replace the assumption. You do not fight the old assumption. You do not dig through your childhood searching for the exact moment it formed. You do not affirm against it in a war you cannot win by force. You install a new assumption so completely, with such repetition and such feeling, that the old one withers from neglect, because an assumption only survives as long as you keep feeding it, and the moment you stop confirming it and start confirming its replacement, the old one begins to die. There is a fifth symptom, and it is the most disguised of all, because it wears the mask of virtue. It is the obsession with working hard for money, the deep, unexamined belief that money must be earned through suffering, sweat, and time, that anything easier is somehow dirty or fake or undeserved. On the surface, this looks like a strong work ethic, and the world will praise you for it. Underneath, it is a hidden assumption that you are not allowed to receive, only to extract, and only in proportion to your pain. So when money tries to come to you easily, through an idea, an opportunity, a stroke of timing, something in you recoils and refuses it, because easy money violates the law you live by, the law that says, I must bleed for every dollar. People with this block will literally turn down the easier path and choose the harder one, then call it integrity. But the universe, or the subconscious, however you want to frame it, does not reward suffering. It responds to assumption, and if your assumption is that money requires suffering, you will unconsciously manufacture suffering as the price of every dollar, and you will sabotage any path that threatens to make it light. Now understand why you cannot just decide to stop, why you cannot simply read this, recognize your symptom, and will it away by tomorrow. Because the assumption is not stored in the part of you that makes decisions. It is stored deeper, in the same place that runs your heartbeat and your reflexes, the part that learned this lesson before you had language, and that part does not respond to logic or argument. You can know, intellectually, with total certainty, that money is just a neutral tool, that there is more than enough, that you deserve it as much as anyone. You can know all of that and still flinch when the money comes close, because knowing lives in one floor of the mind, and the assumption lives in the basement, and the basement runs the building. This is why pure willpower always loses. You are using the weakest part of the mind to fight the strongest. You push hard for a month, you force the new behavior, and then you get tired, the willpower fund runs dry, and the old assumption, which never sleeps and never tires, quietly takes the wheel again and drives you right back to your set point. This is also why people can do years of mindset work and barely move. They are working on the wrong floor. They journal, they affirm, they read another book, all on the conscious level, all in the language the basement does not speak. The basement does not speak in arguments. It speaks in images and feelings, especially repeated images and feelings, and most especially the images and feelings you carry in those soft, suggestible states, the moments of strong emotion and the moments at the edge of sleep. That is the only door into the basement. Not logic, not effort, felt experience repeated in a receptive state until the new assumption is laid down underneath the old one and slowly takes its place. That is the entire mechanism, and once you understand it, you stop wasting your life arguing with a part of yourself that does not argue back, and you start speaking to it in the only language it understands. And here is the diagnostic turned into a tool, the thing I want you to actually do with that strange feeling from now on. Instead of ignoring the flinch, the guilt, the urge to get rid of it, the disbelief, the recoil from easy money, you are going to treat each one as information. Each time it appears, it is showing you exactly where the block lives. So the moment you feel it, you catch it, and you name it. You say internally, there it is. That is the old assumption. That is not the truth of who I am. That is just the program reporting in. And in that naming, you create a tiny gap between you and the assumption. A gap where a choice becomes possible, where for the first time you are observing the program instead of being run by it. You cannot change what you cannot see. The strange feeling, which used to be the thing sabotaging you in the dark, becomes the thing that reveals the saboteur to the light. The symptom becomes the map to the cure. Before I give you the exact treatment protocol, do one thing for me, because it will make the rest of this land deeper. In the comments, tell me which of the 4 symptoms you recognized in yourself. The flinch, the rush to get rid of it, the guilt, or the disbelief. Just name the number. The pinned comment has the full breakdown of all 4 and the specific reversal for each, and naming yours out loud is the first move in breaking its grip, because a hidden assumption loses half its power the instant you drag it into the light and say it plainly. Name yours now. Then come back and let me give you the protocol. So here is the treatment protocol, the actual cure, and I'm going to give it to you in the exact order it has to happen, because order matters as much as the steps. Step 1 is diagnosis, which you have already begun because you named your symptom. You now know which assumption is running you. That alone puts you ahead of almost everyone who spend their whole lives reacting to the symptom without ever once identifying the disease. Keep diagnosing. For the next week, simply catch the strange feeling every time it appears and name the assumption underneath it. Do not try to fix anything yet. Just observe. You are mapping the enemy before you move against it, and the act of conscious observation already begins to loosen the grip, because an assumption can only run you while it stays invisible. Step 2 is the reversal, and this is where most people go wrong, so listen carefully. You do not reverse a hidden assumption by arguing the opposite at it during the day, in your normal waking state, with the guard of logic fully awake. That is fighting on the wrong floor again. You reverse it by constructing the felt experience of the opposite being already true, and delivering that felt experience to the basement through the only doors it has, which are strong emotion and the edge of sleep. So for whichever symptom is yours, you build a small specific scene in which the opposite assumption is simply a settled fact, and you live inside that scene until it feels normal. If your block is the flinch, the assumption that money is dangerous, you live in scenes where money is around you, large amounts, and you are completely relaxed, even bored, handling it like air, like water, like something so safe and natural it does not even register as remarkable. If your block is the guilt, you live in scenes where you have far more than enough, and the people you love are right there with you, proud, well, cared for because of your wealth, not lost to it, your money becoming the thing that protects the connection rather than threatening it. If your block is the thermostat, the rush to get rid of it. You live in scenes where a large balance simply sits there, untouched, and you feel calm, settled, at home with it. A person for whom that number is just normal, just Tuesday, nothing to react to. If your block is the disbelief, you live in scenes where the good thing has fully arrived, and you are letting yourself feel it completely. The relief, the joy, the certainty. No waiting for the catch, no bracing, just the full-bodied acceptance of a good thing that is real and yours and not going anywhere. And if your block is the suffering, the recoil from easy money, you live in scenes where money came to you lightly, through an idea, a stroke of timing, a yes that took 5 minutes, and you feel completely entitled to it, completely at peace with the ease. A person for whom money flowing easily is simply how it works. You are not just imagining a different bank balance, you are imagining a different nervous system. You are rehearsing the internal state of a person who does not have your block until the rehearsal becomes the reality. Step 3 is repetition with feeling, because a single visit to the new scene changes nothing. The old assumption was carved by thousands of repetitions over decades, reinforced every single day by your reactions. You overwrite it the same way it was written, through repetition, except now you are doing on purpose, with intention, what was once done to you by accident. Every night at the edge of sleep, you return to your scene, the one built specifically against your block, and you live in it until you drift off inside it. And throughout the day, every time the old strange feeling appears, instead of just naming it and stopping there, you name it, and then you immediately replace it for 10 seconds with the felt sensation of the reversed scene. The flinch comes, you name it, and then you deliberately relax. Summon the bored ease of the wealthy version and hold it for a breath. You are not fighting the old feeling. You are starving it and feeding its replacement in the same moment, over and over, until the new response becomes the automatic one and the old flinch fades from disuse. And here is what you must understand about the timeline, because impatience will make you quit right before it works. The strange feeling will not vanish overnight. For a while it will still show up, because the old assumption does not die the moment you stop feeding it. It lingers, weakening, testing whether you really mean it. The mistake is to feel the old feeling still appearing and conclude the work is not working. The old feeling appearing is normal. What matters is your response to it. As long as you keep naming it and replacing it, you are winning, even on the days it still shows up strong. The proof of progress is not that the flinch is gone. The proof is that when it comes, it no longer runs you, because now there is a gap. And in that gap, you choose the new state instead of collapsing into the old one. And one day, weeks in, you will notice that money got close and there was no flinch, that a large balance sat there and you felt nothing but calm, that an easy opportunity came and you said yes without the recoil. That is the moment the new assumption has taken root, and from there it begins to manufacture a new reality, the same relentless way the old one manufactured the old. Now let me connect this back to the deepest level of what Neville taught, because the diagnostic and the protocol are the practical layer, but underneath them is a principle that changes how you see your entire life. Neville said that the outer world is a mirror, that circumstances do not create the man, they reveal him. Your financial reality right now is not a random accident, and it is not primarily the result of the economy or your luck or your background. It is a precise, faithful, almost mathematical reflection of your dominant assumptions about money and about yourself. The bank account is the symptom, the assumption is the disease. And this is brutal to hear at first, because it means you cannot blame the outside, but it is also the most liberating thing you will ever understand, because it means the lever is on the inside, where you actually have access to it. You have spent your life trying to fix the reflection by scrubbing at the mirror. The protocol I just gave you is how you change the face instead, so the reflection has no choice but to follow. This is why two people in identical external circumstances produce wildly different financial lives. Same town, same education, same opportunities, and one slowly climbs while the other stays stuck, and everyone reaches for explanations about work ethic and talent and luck, and they miss the actual variable, which is the assumption each of them carries beneath their awareness. The one who quietly assumes that things tend to work out for him, that money comes to him, that he belongs among people who have it, lives in a state that makes him notice opportunities, take the right risks, ask for more, recover from setbacks, and carry himself in a way that makes others want to do business with him. The one who assumes the opposite filters out the same opportunities, flinches from the same risks, accepts less, collapses at the same setbacks, and broadcasts a state that quietly repels the very thing he chases. Same world, different assumption, different life. The world did not choose for them. Their hidden assumption did every single day in 1,000 tiny decisions they never knew they were making. So the strange feeling you came here with, the one that shows up when money gets close, is the single most valuable diagnostic instrument you own, if you stop ignoring it and start reading it. It is your subconscious handing you the exact location of the block for free every time money approaches. Most people spend their whole lives treating that feeling as noise, as anxiety to be pushed down, as just the way I am. You now know it is a signal, a readout, a map, and you have the protocol to act on it. Diagnose the symptom, name the assumption, build the reversed scene, deliver it at the edge of sleep and in the gap during the day, repeat with feeling until the old assumption starves and the new one takes root, and your outer world reorganizes to match the new inner fact. That is the cure. That is the whole medicine, and it costs nothing and no one can prescribe it but you. There is something else a good doctor does that I want you to do too, and it changes everything about how fast you heal. A good doctor does not just treat the symptom in the room. A good doctor traces it back to the source, finds where it began, and addresses the root, because a symptom treated at the surface always returns. So I want you to spend a moment tracing your block to its origin, not to wallow in it, not to blame anyone, but to diffuse it, because a hidden assumption loses enormous power the moment you see that it was installed, that it is not the truth, that it is just an old recording from a frightened time. Ask yourself gently, where did I first learn this? When did money first become dangerous, or shameful, or scarce, or something you had to bleed for? You will almost always find it. A scene from childhood, a tone in a parent's voice, a moment of watching the people you loved suffer over money, and the instant you can see the assumption as a thing that was given to you rather than a fact about reality, you have created the distance you need to put it down. It stops being who you are. It becomes something you were handed, and anything you were handed, you are allowed to give back. And here is the reframe that breaks the guilt and the suffering block specifically, because those two are the most morally tangled and the hardest to release. You have been carrying the assumption that wealth would make you worse, that staying broke keeps you good, that money corrupts and lack purifies. Turn it over. Look at what your poverty has actually cost the people you love. Look at the help you could not give, the doors you could not open for your children, the security you could not provide, the generosity you could not afford. Broke is not noble. Broke is just broke, and it limited the good you could do in the world to the size of your own empty hands. Money in the hands of a person with your values is not a corruption. It is an amplifier of everything good you already are. The corrupt were corrupt before the money found them, and the generous became more generous. Money did not change them. It revealed and magnified what was already there. So the truly moral move, the loving move, is not to stay small and pure and useless. It is to become wealthy precisely because you are not corrupt, so that resources finally flow to someone who will use them well. Once you see that, the guilt has nothing left to stand on, because the thing it was protecting, your goodness, is now better served by wealth than by lack. Let me also warn you about the relapse, because it will come, and if you do not expect it, it will convince you the cure failed. You will do this work, you will feel the shift, money will start to move, the strange feeling will fade, and then something will happen. A setback, a big expense, a scary moment, and the old assumption which has been lying dormant will surge back up with all its old force, and the flinch will return, the guilt will return, the disbelief will return, stronger than ever, and a voice will say, "See, nothing changed, you are exactly who you always were." This is not failure. This is the old pattern making its last stand. An assumption that is dying does not go quietly. It flares, it tests you precisely at your weakest moment, to see if you will abandon the new identity and crawl back to the familiar one. The cure is not to never feel the old feeling again. The cure is to recognize the flare for what it is, a dying reflex, and to refuse to let a bad day rewrite the new assumption you have been building. You hold the new state through the storm, and when the storm passes and you are still standing in the new identity, the old assumption loses its last leverage because it played its strongest card and you did not fold. This is the part almost no one tells you, and it is why so many people get a taste of change and then snap back. They mistake the relapse for the verdict. They feel the old pattern flare and they take it as proof, when it was actually the final exam. The people who break through are not the people who never feel the old feeling again. They are the people who keep choosing the new assumption, even while the old one screams, who treat the relapse as a test to pass rather than a truth to believe, and who understand that healing is not a straight line, but a series of these tests, each one weaker than the last, until one day the old pattern simply does not have the strength to rise anymore. You will get there the same way. Not by never falling, but by refusing to let the fall define you. And do not underestimate this because it sounds simple. The most powerful medicine in your entire life is free, requires no equipment, takes a few minutes a day, and has been available to you the whole time. And that is exactly why people dismiss it. They assume that something that costs nothing and feels this easy cannot possibly be the thing that changes everything, so they keep searching for a harder, more complicated, more expensive answer, and they walk right past the cure, looking for the cure. The strange feeling you came here with was the doorway. The diagnosis was the key. The reversed scene at the edge of sleep is the treatment. The repetition through the relapse is the healing. There is nothing else you need to buy. Nothing else you need to wait for, no permission you need to receive. The entire apparatus that determines your financial life is inside you, accessible tonight. And the only reason it has been writing the wrong story is that no one ever told you that you were holding the pen. Now you know. The question is whether you will write or whether you will hand the pen back to the frightened child who has been holding it your whole life. And that child is not your enemy. That child was just scared and did the best it could with what it learned. You are not here to punish it. You are here to gently take the pen, thank it for trying to keep you safe, and finally write the story it was never able to write for you. The block was never a flaw in you. It was a wound, and wounds can heal, and the healing starts the moment you stop treating the symptom as your identity and start treating it as the very thing pointing you home. Here is what I want you to do now, and it is the most important step because insight that is not acted on evaporates by morning. Go to the comments and write 2 things. First, the symptom you recognize, the number, so you have named the disease out loud. And second, 1 sentence describing the reversed scene you are going to fall asleep in tonight, the specific moment in which your block is already cured and the opposite is simply true. Writing it makes it real, and it gives me a way to point you to the exact reversal if you are stuck, because I read these and I respond to the people who are clearly serious. Then come back tomorrow and tell me whether the strange feeling showed up and what you did with it. The people who report back are the people who change every time, because reporting back is itself the act of someone who has decided to stop being run by the program in the dark. You have the diagnosis now, you have the cure. The only thing left is whether you pick up the medicine tonight or set it down and let the old assumption keep writing your life the way it always has.